And we're back with Paul Draper, and this time I'm going to get his title right. He is the director of the acting program in the Department of Theater Arts and Dance at Sonoma State University. I want to make that clear to everyone. That's actually what's happening. He is not the Pope of stage work. Sorry, I don't know where I got that before. But okay, I see here you did Amadeus as well. You know, John played Salieri once.
I'm not surprised.
Amazing.
He'd be great in that.
He was great. He was great. He's really good at envy and simmering anger. So besides the title I kept butchering in the previous two segments, you are also the director of sustainability at Sonoma State University.
I am.
What is the director of sustainability, and how do you direct an abstract concept like that on stage?
Well, first of all, it's totally outside of the realm of theater.
Yeah.
And it's a bit of a misnomer. Nobody directs sustainability.
Right.
I don't think anybody directed us into climate degradation. I think it happened through a series of human choices,
right,
some of which were quite strong. I mean, moving into the industrial age was a necessity.
Yeah. Moving into cars versus public transportation systems. Yeah.
Life expectancy went from 40 years to 85, 90 years, driven by energy. And would we want a world without access to transportation and choice and telephones? And I don't know whether we want to go back to a time before that. But it was a series of choices of human behavior that led to more and more particulates of carbon going into the air, and it broke down the ozone. So that's not a directable thing. It didn't get directed by one person, right, or a set of people. And the reverse of that is also not directable. So director of sustainability, what I do is I try and coordinate. I try and work with people in various sectors around campus, from facilities to academics, residential halls, dining services, to formulate policies, to have a conversation, to encourage more and more activity that will make the campus more sustainable over the long term, and most importantly, to raise student awareness and to provide academic experiences both in and outside the classroom that ask them to make choices in their careers and in their consumerism that leads to a more healthy environment, and to hopefully the many, many millions of people in the world will lower the amount of carbon in the air, and we'll get to a place where we can survive for another generation.
Now, was this a passion of yours before you took on
No.
responsibility?
No. It came from two places. One is the Theater Arts Department, the Department of Theater Arts and Dance.
It's just polluted. It's just crazy.
No, we did a season of plays about water.
Oh, I see.
And we created a campaign around it. We called it Waterworks. We did a season of 6 projects, 2 dances. There was a couple of operas, short operas that were done in the music department. There were 3 plays done in the theater arts side. One was a new play written by a student.
Wow.
That talked about drought in Fresno, which is sort of the opposite of Waterworks, but we thought it counted.
Yeah.
And we invited the campus to hook on to our ad campaign, to say, if you're doing something about water, then let us know and we'll publicize it for it. Coincidentally, the School of Science and Technology was doing a symposium, a year-long symposium on water, and other areas around campus said, yeah, I'm doing this lecture on water, I'm doing this, or I have this guest coming on. And it became a year-long thing, and it was very powerful. Subsequent to that, I was asked to be on a committee about sustainability that was just being formed by the provost, and he asked me to speak about our ad campaign, our marketing campaign, and then he said, well, why don't you try being the director of sustainability? Though, in fact, I don't think there were any other people who were interested. So I said, okay, I'll give it a shot, and that's how I came into it. That's how it happened on that side. On the passion side, my son was applying for high schools, and he was asked to write an essay, and he wrote about the Pacific Gyre, which is a 3-mile deep Texas side chunk of plastic floating out in the ocean. There are 3 or 4 of those in the world, and he wanted to write about why that was terrible and what had to be done about it. I didn't know it existed. So I started saying to myself, what is it that my son is telling me about the world he's finding himself in? And I ought to get involved in that kind of thing. And so the two of them came together at roughly the same time.
It's kind of an interesting melding of, really one of the few times we see art doing real impact in real time, on a campus, or maybe not the only time, but a time where it's very explicit in this case. It seems like the art of the productions you were doing that, about water led directly to the sustainability directorship, which you now hold.
Well, I think for me it brought me into that realm of the university has a long history of doing things about sustainability, and the work that's being done with the water agency, with waste management agency. So many of our professors do really great work. They have service learning programs out in the community. There just wasn't a mechanism for connecting the dots across campus. In fact, the marketing campaign we came up with is called DOT, D-O-T-T, Do One Thing Today, and it's about connecting the dots across campus. So that's what we've been doing in the last couple of years, is really saying there are these things that are occurring across campus. You should be aware of them. You should make other connections. You should see if you can find a way to augment what you're doing in sustainability by working with others.
How do you see the future taking shape with the crop of kids you work with now, or students, I should say? This particular generation.
In sustainability or acting?
Let's talk about sustainability first, and then go into what's going to happen more generally with acting and that kind of thing.
I think our students are so aware, not just our students, but this generation that are 14 to 22-year-olds.
And even younger than millennials now.
They are aware of the danger to the earth in a way that people in my generation still are not. I don't think there's a 14-year-old, a 16-year-old who can say climate change is fiction.
Right.
And they understand that. But I think there's also a kind of, well, what can I do about it? This is way beyond me. This is huge. This is a meteor, a huge meteor coming to Earth, and I can't stop it. I'm not Superman. I'm not Superwoman. There's nothing I can do about it. And so I sense a sort of kind of like stuck in the middle. I have this problem. It's going to affect me, but I don't have any control over it. I think that ramifies in this explosive populist drive in the elections to Bernie Sanders and even Donald Trump. Two sides of the perspective of both are saying, somebody take charge, somebody help, somebody make some decisions, and that's really hard because they're feeling lost, and I see that. On the other hand, I have so many actions working with students coming to me and say, can I do this, or will you help with that, or what can we do, or come and watch this guest that we brought to campus. They're out there, they're more and more saying, I will do what I can. There was a student that graduated a couple of years ago, 3 or 4 of them got together and they're starting an organic farm. They're doing what they can. And I think it's adding your light to the sunlight, if you will. I hope there's enough of that activity going on. I think that we're getting to a turning point. I read some statistics the other day saying the ozone is actually repairing.
Right.
So maybe it won't be too late. Maybe it won't be too late.
On that note, it's too late for us. We must stop the show.
Okay.
This is 707 and Paul Draper, who is the director of the acting program at Sonoma State University's Department of Theater Arts and Dance. Thanks for being on the show. I hope you come back.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
Did I get it right? More or less, yeah.
I guess so.